This episode of Inside EMS is brought to you by Lexipol, the experts in policy, training, wellness support, and grants assistance for first responders and government leaders. To learn more, visit lexipol.com. That's LEXIPOL.com. Well, here it is, and once again, it's time to go Inside EMS. I am your host, Chris Cebollero, and this is my favorite time of the week because I get to talk to my favorite person. I don't know that he's my favorite person, but Kelly, Grayson, KG, what's going on with you?
I should be your favorite person, man.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Come on now. You're the longest relationship of my life. Am I not?
I know. We said that. We said that in Oklahoma.
The longest relationship of your life, aren't I?
I don't think it is, but
it's
it
good.
Makes me uncomfortable when you say it like that, though. It just seems.
Yeah, it's kind of depressing to know that each of us are long-standing relationship with the other. I expected better out of myself, really. I should set higher standards. It's been rainy up here in the North Country, man, with the remnants of Hurricane Debbie. Called these poor people to lose their minds over the water coming down. I have been unable to travel because there is a travel ban for my county.
What does that mean? Travel ban? You can't get
I don't know. What are they going to do? Scold me if I'm on the road? I don't know. But
so did they stop you from traveling really because of the rain?
Yep. There were a great number of bridges and roads washed out. And
yeah.
And the fire department was busy all night with flooding basements. Like, how do you have a basement in this neck of the woods and not have a sump pump?
Well, but the realization too is basements leak. I mean,
yes, I know, which is why you have a sump pump.
Yeah.
Which is why you have a pump to pump it out. But apparently a whole lot of people don't. And, my thought all night was, oh, this is so cute. You people think this is flooding. That's so
it's you passing judgment, just like a paramedic, passing judgment on other people.
Yeah.
It's one of our problems. Stop judgmental. You need a hug. Somebody give him a hug. But I'm not going to do it. So
give myself one. That's the best hugs.
So Kelly, as we transition into this week's topic, I mean, you kind of came with a little passion to say, I want to talk about this. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to set it up. Everybody knows what it is because they're reading it before they even hear it. But I'm going to let you set it up anyway.
What is it with EMS's unhealthy addiction to response times? We are in, as a profession, we are in a mess and a corner we painted ourselves into with response time standards. First, we spent 2 generations telling everyone in the world, if you have the smallest little problem, call EMS. And we got a headache, might be a stroke, call EMS. Got a little twinge in your jaw, might be a heart attack, call EMS. And we've been so successful at that people call EMS for so many things, and about 70% of the time they don't need EMS in the first place. Yet we have to beat time standards to meet the demand of these calls that really don't need EMS in the first place. So, virtually every EMS system you go to, they have response time standards that they must meet. And if they don't meet those standards, 90% of the time, they get financially penalized. Yet now, this is 2024. We have so much evidence that shows that response times are not that important mortality-wise and morbidity-wise, that only a very few of our calls actually need rapid response. And we have a mountain of evidence now that shows that lights and siren response is not beneficial and does not save you a great deal of time, any appreciable amount of time in urban areas. Yet all these people, all these systems still work that way. And it's driving me freaking nuts.
Well, I mean, I think that you really do need a hug because I think that one of the things being in EMS for as long as I have and you have as well is we were around when we believed in response times, right? I mean, so right now I think we have a mountain of evidence after all these years, but I can tell you that when we think about the science of EMS and the science of EMS response, when we talk about system status management, when we talk about response time and response time compliance. So just response times for a priority 1 call, the most life-threatening is 8 minutes and 59 seconds. For a medical call or for a non-life threatening call, it's 10 minutes and 59 seconds. And then for a medical call, it's 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So we've set up these response times as we've gone through our career in EMS, in our life in EMS, because we believed. I mean, when we think about this, first from a theory standpoint, Kelly, and I think that your dislike of response times really has to be able to be respectful of how the response times really came about. Is we were trying to develop a system, and we were trying to show that we can make a difference. If we were promising our community, if you have a life threat, we are going to get to you in 9 minutes. Right now, if you think about your first responders, who are usually right around the corner, their average time to scene is 4 minutes. Right. So by the time you're getting a transporting mode, a mode of transportation, a transporting unit, you now have had somebody on scene, and we're telling you that, and we were promising the community that. And now, as we start to move forward, the answer is maybe response times don't work. But to your point, and I feel like I'm babbling now. I listened to you babble for 5 minutes. Now I feel like I'm babbling. But I think that the thing that came about from response times and contracts were, we will promise you that we will be on scene in 8 minutes and 59 seconds, 90% of the time. And then the communities were saying, bet. And it was the same people who were saying, we'll put 2 paramedics in a truck because that's better for care.
Yeah.
That doesn't work either, right? So,
No. Well, it's interesting that you say the science of EMS, because response time standards are based on zero science. You mentioned 8 minutes and 59 seconds in urban areas, response time. You know where that came from?
Xed out.
Some well-meaning planner pulled it directly out of his rectum. That's where it came from.
It's
actually based on the American Heart Association chain of survival, ALS on scene within 8 minutes. But if you don't have those first responders you mentioned, which many communities do not, many major cities do not have that adequate first response, the only response time standard that we know is cardiac arrest. That AHA chain of survival. Everything else we might know, but we don't have any hard data. But that cardiac arrest, 8 minutes, no, you have to have, if you don't have CPR and defibrillation within the first 4 minutes, which is the real hard standard, then 8 minutes, or next Tuesday, somewhere between noon and 5 p.m. might be just as efficient. It makes no sense. Yet we have all this data now, benchmarks that are showing that these response time standards that we've had are arbitrary and unproven, and we have hard data now that says that it should not be this. Yet contracts are still negotiated in 2024 on these outdated standards.
You're irritating me. So I want to quantify.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
I think you're wrong. I do think you're wrong. And let me tell you why. I don't ever think you see response times, or for years we're going to get away from response times. And I think the answer to that is going to be community paramedicine. But one of the things that I think, first off, I want to quantify is that Jack Stout was the creator of the response times, and we were needing a leader at that time, and he went through this process of developing this for us. And when we talk about the science of it, I'm not really talking about where's the science that show response times make a difference. I'm talking about the science, the EMS science that allowed us to operate for as many years as we did. Right? You say it all the time, 50% of what we do in EMS is wrong, but we just don't know what 50%. Well, that just isn't for the clinical side of the business. That's for the operational side of the business as well. There are things that we do, and there are things that we've done for so many years that we don't know if it really makes a difference or not, right? Because there's been no good research on it. So now, when we start to think about these response times, and then when are we going to stop putting them into contracts? Who's going to be the first agency to risk their contract by not putting it in the contract to say, we're going to make a difference in this $30 million a year contract, but don't hold us to any response time standard? That's not going to work. That's not going to go. Who's going to be the first agency to do that? Who's going to be the first agency to say, I'm not going to put response times in my RFP?
Chris, if we use that rationale clinically, we would still be giving 3 milliliters of isotonic crystalloid for every 1 milliliter of blood lost. We would still be doing routine spinal immobilization.
It's
Board them
totally different.
all
It's
and let the
totally different.
radiologist
Let
sort
me
them
tell you
out.
why it's different. Let me tell you why it's
Science.
different. Let me tell you why
I
it's.
tell you why it's all right.
I'm telling you why it's different. I'm going to tell you why it's different. Because you don't have a city council who doesn't know anything about medicine, or maybe they do. Maybe there's some people that have medicine that are going to understand that you're taking away their response time compliance.
Okay.
Where are you going to go with that one?
I get that. My point being is that we created this expectation.
Of course we
And no
did.
one, no one is going to change this expectation if not us. You know, we have educated the public into thinking that everything needs an ambulance, even the most trivial things. We created that monster, and now we can either feed it or we can slay it and replace it with something more reasonable. And somebody, some system is going to have to be the first. I do think there are systems out there. I think there are people that systems that have a strong enough relationship with their governmental bodies and their community that they can start taking those. You may not be able to do it all at once, but they can start taking those baby steps towards saying, hey, this is really not in 40 plus years or 60 plus years of EMS. This is not really the way to do things anymore. We know better now. The same way we have progressed clinically, not doing things that were ill supported by science. But I'm going to pivot. There's another thing that we do, and we're all clinically, it's affecting the care that we provide as well. Not just the fact that, you know, every ambulance service everywhere has a staffing shortage. Why do we have a staffing shortage? Because we can't put up enough trucks to meet response time standards when those standards are arbitrary and unproven and really not necessary in the first place. But clinically, we've got people all around my county who will take every single patient to the Band-Aid station rather than the real hospital 40 minutes further away because they don't want to take a truck out of service for an hour and a half to 2 hours.
I don't understand what you're saying.
If I've got 10 minutes to Podunk General Hospital,
Who's making that decision? The paramedics or
the crews? Not only the crews, but the operations managers and the chiefs of the squads. I was having a conversation with my partner last night. Now, the agency I work part-time for has a mechanism in place where you can transport and they don't mind it. But my ops manager was saying so few of his paramedics actually make that decision. It would be nice if more did. But my partner works at some other place. He said, oh yeah, we used to transport to so-and-so hospital, but we got in trouble for taking our unit out of service for too long.
And you think that has something to do with response times?
No, but it's times in general, you know, availability, response times, all this kind of stuff. We put so much emphasis in EMS on time when time is important, but it's also quality of care. And if we're going to emphasize time, then let's talk about time to definitive care. If you take a stroke or a STEMI patient to the Band-Aid station 10 minutes away, when the definitive hospital is 40 minutes away, have you saved that patient any time? No, you just committed them to a lifetime of.
It depends on what they need, man. I mean,
that's what I just said. If you have a stroke or a STEMI or something that the rural hospital cannot handle, why take them there? Why not just drive right on past them to the bigger hospital a little further away? I struggle to understand.
I mean, I really don't understand what your argument is. I mean, I'm trying to understand this, and it's like you're just confusing the hell out of me. So what you're saying, it is based on the times that it sounds like you have people that just don't want to do the work.
No. The problem, as stated in the very beginning, was our addiction to times. Like the time it takes to do this, the time it takes to get to a scene, the time it takes to transport, the time our unit is out of service for a service that runs maybe 7 or 8 runs a week. And they think that you know, taking a patient to a hospital that cannot care for them appropriately is the best care for the patient. So they'll be ready for that hypothetical call that never comes, you know, and that's the you
I
know,
think you need to
it's
check
just time
I
in
think you
general.
need to check your blood sugar, man. Are you,
Yeah,
I
no,
think
my
you're having
blood
a
sugar's
metabolic
fine.
disorder here.
You know what?
I really,
You sound like one of those guys, one of those managers and planners who's trapped in the past and stuck with the status quo.
no,
How you like them
what
apples?
I'm saying is we need to be able to take the patient to where they need to go. Now, if you're using the science of EMS, you need to have a deployment plan. You need to be able to have, the resources you need, knowing that X amount of your people are going to go an hour and 40 minutes away. And you need to be able to have the resources on the street to handle that. It's not the flip of the coin. Do you say, oh my gosh, when are we going to get the call that we have to go an hour and 40 minutes to the
Yeah.
hospital? You've got to be able to look at that historical data to say, I am going to get calls X amount of period of time, and I'm going to take my resources out of the county X amount of period, X amount of percentage of time, and I need to plan accordingly. So
Well, my
what
my
you're
employer
saying is,
has that system in place.
okay, but what you're saying is, let's flip the coin and let's just bypass it so we can let's go to the urgent care center just so we can put the resource back in place for the big call.
That's what
I would
some
hate to think that
government do.
paramedics are making that decision. Even more
That's
importantly, I would hate to think that EMS leaders are making that decision.
dude,
But you're irritating the heck out
dude.
of me today. I can't talk to you anymore.
Okay.
I'm not
Yeah.
talking to you anymore today.
It does happen. It does happen. It's that happens all over the place, everywhere you go. There are some systems that are got it together, but you go to rural America and it's like that.
Yeah.
I've gone to ERs in this county where there was a helicopter willing to take the patient who was, and the ER doc is tapping his watch saying, you need to go right now. But the helicopter's on the way and they'll get there far faster with a higher level of expertise and care than we can provide right now. Yeah, but it's gonna take them 45 minutes to get here, and then they're gonna fiddle fart around for an hour before they leave, which I was diplomatic enough to say, yeah, that's because they're doing the things that you should have done in the first place. But I didn't. But that kind of thing. Everyone, is so concerned with time. Time is important, but it is not the be all and end all. And Chris, there are agency-wide places from the top down that will not transport the patient to the most appropriate hospital because they want to get back in service
Well, they
and
won't
not
work for me.
deprive their county of coverage.
They
Yet,
won't be working for me.
yeah, well, good. Now, can we multiply more people like you
No,
as service chiefs?
I'm
That's
still
the problem.
irritated. I want to know what your blood sugar is, but get us up on that air. I can't
That's
take you
good.
anymore this week.
But hey, yeah, Chris, look, I'm preaching to someone who's never going to be converted. I want you guys. Are response times really that important? What mechanisms does your system have in place for coverage if you have to go out of town? How hard do they hold your feet to the fire over response times, knowing current science that don't really matter all that much? And that includes licensed sirens transport. We really want to kick over the hornet's nest and see what we get. Give us your thoughts at the show at ems1.com. And for myself and co-host Chris Cebollero, a man firmly stuck in the 1980s, thanks for tuning in to Inside EMS. We're going to catch y'all next week.